And welcome to another edition of the ETB Sportsnet Coaches Show. I'm Kenneth the K-Rock Klein, and before you ask, this is not Kurt Busch who got wrecked at the Daytona 500. No, this is actually head baseball coach Jared Hood coming off a trip to California to take on Chapman University. Second trip that you've made there in a span of 4 seasons, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was it was a good trip. Anytime you get a chance to play a regional opponent, especially one that's ranked in the top 20. You look for that competition and you get to see how you measure up, and it was a good trip for us.
Certainly, Coach. And, the results, you took one win from Chapman that ended up putting a big loss in their record, first loss of the season. But then, of course, the second the 2 games you played afterwards, hard-fought first game, but, came up a little short of the walk-off win for them. And then the second game, great pitching performance, but just had some issues on the field that kind of turned the tide in their favor and all that. But overall, one thing you talked about, of course, was all about execution. And for the most part, with the exception of some things, you did execute to perfection. Well, close to perfection, if you will. But just talk about that series as a whole and what your guys learned from that, especially after playing big boy baseball, like you said last week.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we can take away from that series is that we can play with anybody. Derek Finley went out and just absolutely shoved game 1. 3-0 shutout, and the guy that they were throwing was arguably the best arm that we're going to see all year long. And a guy that's had really good years for Chapman and is their number one guy, and it was a battle, and we found a way to win the ball game. So great pitching, timely hitting. We ran the bases well that game. Played good defense, and we ended up winning the ball game. Game 2 was one of the best baseball games that I've ever been a part of, just as far as just a back and forth, both teams doing what they can to try to win a game, and it was just one of those things where somebody had to lose. And unfortunately, we made a mistake, and when you're playing a quality opponent like that in a big time game like that, if you make a mistake, you're going to lose. And that's what happened with us in game 2. In game 3, we kind of shot ourselves in the foot. I mean, we played. I think it was 4.5, almost a 5-hour ball game. Game 1, then to turn around and have to play another 9-inning game. We just kind of let our foot off the gas, and they took advantage of it. But the guys continued to fight hard. We still had a chance to win that ball game and to come back. So the biggest thing that we've taken from that trip is that we do a lot of things very well within our program, within our team, and this team is very, very talented. But there's also some things that we can clean up. And the good thing is, we didn't win the series, but we won a lot of things that we wanted to see. And every mistake that we made is correctable. There's nothing that's like, that's never going to get fixed, or we can't do this, or we can't do that. Everything that we face is a correctable mistake, and we'll get it corrected and we'll move on.
Certainly, Coach. And also, obviously, when you're on a road trip like that, or especially a plane trip like that, there's obviously some things that you take time away from baseball, but an opportunity for your guys to bond. You talk about having returning players, but also a big set of newcomers on the team. So just talk about what were some of the things that you did while you were out there as a way to kind of bond with the guys.
Yeah, well, I mean, so you spend all the time to try to set up an itinerary and to follow it to a T, but then you get out there and weather kind of hits, and you've got to adapt and adjust. So we got rained out on Thursday, and we didn't really want the guys sitting around all day in the hotel, so we decided to take them to Dodger Stadium and take a team tour of Dodger Stadium and hear some of the kind of history and get to see some of the awards and the places where some of those all-time greats have walked through the hallways. And so it was a very, very special time for us to get to do that as a team. But of course, plane rides and bus rides and stuff like that, I mean, you're always around the guys. So as far as a team bonding trip, I mean, it was good for that as well.
Certainly, Coach. I need to make a note to go to Dodger Stadium. Like, I've been to Fenway, I've been to Yankee Stadium and all that. I'm sure all your guys would like to go to every one of the 30 ballparks in Major League Baseball. So, but now that trip's out of the way, you got a couple of games. Well, a game on Wednesday night and then a road series this Thursday. Starting off, you're taking on Millsaps Wednesday. This was a team that you played last year, had a split into 2 games. And obviously, looking at them right now, they're obviously having a tough year up to this point. But, again, it's one of those cases. Like when you have a midweek game in contrast to a weekend series, what's the mindset going in?
Our mindset, we've got to continue to get better at the mistakes that we've made the week prior. We've got some guys, some younger guys that need to get some time on the mound. So it's an opportunity to see those guys compete. It's an opportunity to get some more guys in the lineup and to see them swing the bat. And but for us, it's another chance to get onto the field, okay, and to compete at a high level. And that's the biggest thing is that whatever level we're going to play at, we got to be consistent. Whether you're a low energy team that just goes about their business and get things done, or if you're a higher energy team that you're hooping and hollering and running around and stuff, but whatever you are, you've got to be consistent. So it's another chance for us to be able to do that. And Millsaps, I mean, they're a well-coached program. I know they're going to be ready to go, and they're fighting for some wins, which makes them a pretty dangerous team, because they're trying to get back on track and back to some winning ways, and so it's going to be a good game, and we're not taking them lightly by any stretch of the imagination. And then Ozarks this weekend, we start conference, and anytime you play in the ASC, you've got to be ready to go.
Yeah, and speaking of Ozarks, of course, now obviously we don't want to look into the past, but this was the team that did end your season last year, took a couple of one-run games in the process. So now that conference season has started, this is kind of what it's all about, a chance to pick up wins and then complete yourself in the top 8 of the division. Obviously, there's going to become highs and there's going to come lows. So, like for the newcomers who are about to experience their first conference game, what's the message that's being, sent to, from the guys that have been there before to the coaching staff, just to give them a little bit of a heads up as to what to expect?
As far as the game goes, I mean, the game of baseball doesn't change from opponent to opponent. Okay, the message from us has been you've got to continue to take care of the things inside the program. Okay, you can, as far as game plans and all that stuff, yes, but as far as our preparation, our attitudes, our intensity, our execution, those are the things that we have to make sure that we've got complete control over. And if we handle those things, we're going to be just fine. And I don't care who we play. As long as we're taking care of ourselves, I feel pretty good about our chances against anybody out there.
All right, Coach. Well, thanks once again for joining me, and we hope wish you the best of luck this weekend. You'll see Coach Hood and the baseball team on Wednesday night, and then they'll have their series against Ozarks this weekend. Stick around. We'll have more on this YouTube channel in just a moment.